Today's show is brought to you by Imperial Yeast. You hear us gushing over Imperial Yeast all the time, and that's because their yeast performs for us in every batch that we brew. Imperial Yeast is adored by commercial breweries and home brewers alike. Their pitch right pouches are jam-packed with over 200 billion fresh yeast cells, guaranteed to deliver flawless, fast fermentations every time. Imperial yeast strains are grown by a team of pro brewers and home brewers who live to help other brewers learn more and ferment better. Join any recipe receiving tier of our Super Duper Homebrew Club and get a free upgrade to premium Imperial yeast with every recipe kit that ships out to you. Learn more at homebrewhappyhour.com/club and come brew with us.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Pouring test wort back in the batch, airlock differences, forgetting to measure gravity, and choosing which way to sparge. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 228. Welcome to the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing. Today, I am joined by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com, Mr. James Carlson down there, as well as the President and Chief Keg Washer of kegconnection.com, looking suave with the top button undone, Mr. Todd Burns. Welcome, gentlemen.
Oh, did we start? Sorry. I was trying to determine what I was going to give away on the show. I'm going to give something away today.
Are you really?
I haven't told you yet.
Whoa, which is also a good segue for me. So someone, they call...
Trying to see what the most expensive recipe is on our site. Oh, sorry, did I just interrupt you again?
No, you're good. I was... it's got to be... It's got to be one.
I think it's Scrooge.
I was going to say it's got to be
Founder's Breakfast Stout.
Well, that's got to be one of them, or the spiced ales, like that Belschnickel's spiced ale on Homebrew Supply. That's got to be one of the more, because it's just hops on tops of hops on tops of hops. Yeah. Maybe one of the triple IP, like that Hop Monster.
What about the
Pliny's clone, that probably is pretty pricey. I don't know. One time we let long like founders members of our Super Duper Homebrew Club, we let them pick their recipe. And I don't blame them from doing this, but like 90% of the ones who picked their own recipe went to the most expensive one. And that's what they're like, I'd like to pick this one right here. And thankfully, they're all grain brewers, so that helps out on the cost, because extract, people don't realize if you're not in retail, or if you're just a consumer, you realize extract recipes usually cost a lot more than their all grain counterparts. So
yeah, they're very
Pliny
expensive.
the Elder is 60. It's up there. It's over. Well, that's the highest one according to Homebrew Supply
on the listings. Yeah, yeah.
I got 72.14 on Bell Snickers Scrooge Spice Holiday Ale. That's the most expensive one I've found so far.
I've got $72.95 for Pliny the Elder double IPA clone.
$79.95. So $79.95 up to $79.95 value, but we'll talk about that later.
Oh yeah, you're in charge of that, because I have no idea what you're talking about. But I will say that we also on members of our Super Duper Club, check your inboxes, because at the end of this week, Friday, which is tomorrow, we will be doing our drawing for a $50 gift certificate to homebrewsupply.com for Super Duper Homebrew Club members only. All levels are applicable. If you go to homebrewhappyhour.com/club, you see how you can join. Right now, it's still only through Patreon. We're trying our best to get this thing launched, and our server issues are kind of resolved, I think, but I don't like speaking ahead of myself because I keep embarrassing myself when I do that. But We're trying to have other options for people to join the club. But right now, it's through patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. And like the lowest tiers get like 1 entry and the highest tiers get like 7 entries or something like that. So we are going to do the drawing tomorrow, and it'll be announced again on patreon.com/homebrew happy hour. And then that also reminds me, members who receive recipes for our super duper homebrew club, it's your last call if you want to get the Simply Juice Pale Ale or Brian's Kolsch. And those have gone out. Joe told me they started shipping out Tuesday and it wrapped up shipping Wednesday. If you didn't get a tracking number from me through Patreon, just message me or text that 325-305-6107 and I'll get it to you. We were, I think most people got them received. And if not, like I said, just reach out. I have your tracking number 100%. And then the last small talk thing I have for, speaking of last calls, is but May 3rd, Monday, is the last call for the deals that are on kegconnection.com, which are 20% off keg kits and 20% off recipe kits. And there's a huge sale on a tower. Like, Todd, you're just throwing the kitchen sink at people, man. I like it.
Yep.
But that ends.
Save people money.
But it ends. That's the thing. That's what I like about it. Like, I am a generous man, but it's ending on May 3rd. So go to kegconnection.com. You can use our promo code HHH for an additional 5% off. Not on the things that are 20% off, though. It'll work on that tower, but the coupon code, don't believe stats on things that are, once they're a certain threshold of a percentage off of the MSRP. So with that being said, the next small talk thing that I have is people keep, I posted a teaser photo of the brow tag. James sent me one, and I put it on our Instagram, and the feedback has been phenomenal. And then the DMs started coming, and they're like, guys, I want a firm date. I want to buy this. And I was like, I don't have a firm date. I don't know. But Todd has a range, or no, you have a firm date. Todd, tell the people when they can start getting their hands or ordering a brow tag.
I don't know. I don't remember what date I gave you. I gave you the day. I'll tell you what the date was. I can tell you what the date was. The date is May. Well, see, you never answered my email as usual. So the email was a question, and it said, "My plan is to launch the week of the 18th. What don't you should read the email sometime? But the 17th through the 21st.
Yes.
Should we announce it on the 27th when we do the podcast?"
Yes, that is what you said. I see it now. I didn't read your email.
Or maybe it was a week before. I don't remember exactly.
It is
somewhere. Yeah.
You talked about you did. My understanding was our plan is the 17th. Is the site will be up with all the information on there. I'm coming up next week for pretty much the whole week because we have a functioning system. We are going to be filming. Todd is going to be the star. James, I'm going to get you on camera if we can. We need you're still our number one YouTube star, dude. I don't know how you feel about that. But
guy.
Yeah, that's right. You are. We'll get the makeup girl to come help us too. But we are going to be doing a lot of filming on the brow tag. That'll be fun. Speaking of filming, raise your hand if you're not getting your balls kicked by Todd Burns this week. That's me.
I was just looking up a nice way to say balls, and you just went out there and said it. There we go.
Scrotum, testicles. They're not getting kicked.
Knackers.
We have a video up, the part 2, and believe it or not, Todd, I got like 90% done of part 3. You told me not to, and I was like, oh, but it's a lot shorter than I thought it was. So part 2 is up at youtube.com/homebrew happy hour. It was all the hype we built up, and people are gonna be like, all that hype for this 8.5 minute video. But
the shorter the better. People watch videos. The shorter they are, the more likely they are to watch. Right?
I completely agree. And also though the content's good. It looks good. I forgot how nice. We haven't done a whole lot on the.
How nice I looked. Is that
no? How nice the captured footage on that cinematic camera looks as well.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you did look good. I think you had just gotten a haircut too. Yeah, you looked very, very sharp. But the cinematic camera we haven't done a whole lot with since, and we're trying to change that soon because we spent all this money on this camera and we have to justify it. But we do have, like I said, the Browtad videos are going to be definitely shot on our best equipment. And I'm kind of pumped about it because it's finally here. I feel like we've been talking about this for a while internally. And then on the show, we've been talking about it for a month or so, kind of hinting at it. And we're here now. It's exciting. It's going to be a good time. And hopefully people see the content, they see us brewing on it, and they see the value they're going to get. Because I don't know if we've announced a price tag. I'll wait for all the info to come out on the website. But I think people are going to be happy with what they get and for what they're spending. I think y'all would agree.
Yes, and James has been working nonstop on this thing. I can't tell you how much he's worked on it. It's a beautiful system, it really is.
It's fun. It's fun to get that thing out and to see what people think about it. There's a couple of little loose ends that we've got to tidy up, but for the most part, it's ready.
Dude, the logoing that y'all did looks phenomenal. It looks way better than I thought it would. Todd, you sent that photo, and I was on a Zoom call with Todd, and I was like, oh, I knew that you already do a good job, but I didn't think the method y'all were doing would be that good. Like, it looks clean. It looks really good. I'm pumped about how it turned out. So
yeah, I was happy that we went with Cougartron on the logo. They did us a solid on the graphics.
And I still laugh every time I hear Cougartron because it sounds like a futuristic sets robot.
Yeah,
like
no, it's they make a fantastic etching kit for stainless steel.
I know,
really easy to use, and their stencils are dead on. I mean, the crisp lines. It's everything we didn't expect in a good way.
I agree. I think that sums it up. It exceeded my expectations, and I was on that call for a little bit with y'all. It seemed like they went in. It seemed like their customer service is really good too. They had a very long call with you guys, and they're English. They seem like they were from all over. I don't know where they're.
Yeah, there was a couple of guys from Texas, but the company's in England.
Okay.
I thought it was in. Or was it in England? Okay.
Yeah, it started there. They've got offices here in the States too, but the guy that we first talked to, he was actually in England when he was talking to us.
Right. And I said, well, he had an English accent is why I thought, but I know what you're saying, Todd, because some other guy was Dutch.
Dutch. Yeah. I think they must have some facilities in
Holland. Or the Netherlands, pardon me. Someone's going to go, Holland is a region, or I actually don't know that.
Not really sure. Maybe they are from Holland in that area, but the guy that reached out to us initially was in England.
Yeah, he definitely was English on that call.
They're real heavy into cleaning, weld cleaning. So they make machines to clean welds.
Yeah.
And
look them up, guys. Cougartron. And like I said, maybe do family safe search if you're looking up Cougartron, depending on the what Google thinks you're trying to look for. But I'm just saying they are a great company in the
definitely. You don't want the internet to reach out and go,
yeah, you're Cougartron. Oh, I know what this guy wants tonight. Anyway, I think that's all the small talk that we have. I can't think of anything else. But again, I want to follow up and just reiterate, because a lot of people sometimes, obviously Todd's with Keck Connection, and we're with Keck Connection LLC, and James is CM Becker LLC. But the deals on Keck Connection I didn't talk about enough this month on the show, and I feel bad. So it's last call for 20% off on all kegging kits and homebrew kegging kits, and on homebrew recipes, all grain and extract. So if you want to save some money on delicious recipes, or if you want to get into kegging or add to your system, now's the time, because the deals end Sunday at midnight. I said Monday the 3rd, but it's actually Sunday midnight the 2nd. So go to keckconnection.com, check those out. And again, always use our promo code HHH. And if you have any issues with that, just email tburns@keckconnection.com. So we've got 4 questions for this week's show.
What? Really? Did you just do that? And because all I'm going to do is forward it to you, because I don't know how to fix it. If you go to I need to make a link, homebrewhappyhour.com/hate mail, and it's just a mail to pop up for you. That's what I need to do. And I direct everyone to you. It's just this loop. All right. Anyways, 4 questions for this week's show, starting with one from our buddy Carlos, who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Carlos wrote, "Hello, Homebrew Happy Hour. My wife and I received a beer making bundle last year that's led to a fun new hobby for us. I found your web show on YouTube. Thank you for all you do. I do have one question.
when we use the included hydrometer in the beer or wort or whatever it is called at that moment before we put the yeast pack in the fermenter, is it okay to pour the test beer into the fermenter too? Or do we need to throw it out? We get the test beer, we get the test beer from our kettle before pouring any beer into the fermenter, if that matters. Carlos, that's a great question. One of my favorite things to do on a brew day is to drink and to taste. And I know it's wort at that moment that he's specifically referring to. It's not beer. There has not been any conversion yet. So there's no, the yeast hasn't gone to work. And typically you're taking your test wort before, you wouldn't put yeast, you wouldn't put it in your fermenter, put yeast, and then put it into your hydrometer test tube, right? Like you do all that before you pitch because the yeast isn't going to act anyway, and you take another gravity reading once the yeast is done. I would say to start off the question that I usually try it, and if I do that, I do not pour it in because I don't want the contaminants from my mouth that are going to end up in my batch of beer that would possibly get ruined because God knows what's living in my mouth. With that being said, do y'all typically? Well, y'all are different though, because y'all get your samples from your fancy refractometers. You use refractometers and stuff. So
that way you don't have to spoil a whole bunch of wort, but definitely don't pour it back into the fermenter when you.
I used to do it a lot though. I always stuck my tongue in it and then poured it back in as I was tasting it. Yeah,
has that been the secret this whole time for why?
Yep, that's what makes that beer of mine unique.
like Todd's beer batches. How do you?
Just joking, y'all.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. I like that you
take him seriously.
Don't listen to him. Don't listen. No,
was pretty
make
good.
it your beer.
Yeah. How about this? If James, if your hydrometer, so do you sanitize your hydrometer and test tube? That's what I'll ask you, James.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day when I was doing it, I would.
Okay.
You know,
oh yeah, you're not doing it now. My bad.
I mean, for what? What is a hydrometer, Todd? $30, $40?
You break them all the time, Todd. What are they? A refractometer.
Yeah, they're like 30. They're like $30. I mean, if you sanitized everything really well and you pulled it out and it was all sanitized, you technically could pour it back in. But I've never done it because I've always have to taste it. I mean, I have to taste it.
That's how me and my dad feel, and that's why we never pour it back because again, the contaminants from your mouth are gonna follow that batch back into your bigger. Like if you pour it in, that's why James is saying don't do it. But hypothetically, like Todd said, if your refractometer and your test tube are sanitized and you're not making contact with the liquid, you could, in theory, do your reading, take out your hydrometer and pour that into your batch. But what are we talking about in milliliters? What's the average amount of test wort? What's the volume? I don't want to make up a number, but it's insignificant, in my opinion, to the potential ramifications of a ruined batch, right?
Yeah,
it's what, Todd, about 8 ounces, maybe?
Yeah, 8 or 10 ounces, maybe. Yeah, it depends on it. Really, that's a loaded question because there's a lot of different tubes out there that you use for it. I mean, some people use the tube that comes with their hydrometer and it's very thin. It might hold 4 ounces. The tube I use probably holds 12 ounces. I mean, I got a big old glass tube I drop that sucker into. So it's quite a bit.
And but you've got those other things, like the thieves that'll go down into the carboys.
Yeah. And I have used those. I definitely have used those, and I do not pour it back in. But at that point, when James and I use a tube or a thief or whatever, actually we just usually take it in from the valve, the thief, right? The valve.
Yeah,
what do you call that? Sample valve. Thank you. Yeah. So anyway, when you fill that up and you use it, I mean, at that point, when we do it is later, it's because we use a refractometer to start with. So then it's actually has alcohol in it. And so we always drink the whole thing.
Yeah, always.
Every time. Well, it's funny too, because like I always have to taste it just because it gives you kind of an indication of how it's going to end up. But for new people, like because Carlos, they just started brewing, It's not the end all be all like that. Like I drink maybe more out of habit because I'm not. It's sugar water what you're having at that point, right? So it's like you do get the hop aroma and some stuff, but it's not always like if it's really sweet, that's not necessarily an indicator that our beer's going to be really sweet. Like no, that's because those sugars haven't been put to work yet.
Yeah,
you gotta try it, Carlos. Drink it.
Just drink it, Carlos. Just drink. That is funny though. That wasn't even like one of the options that he presented. Right? It's like, do we need to throw it out? Don't throw it out, Carlos. Don't do that. That's I know I said 8 ounces or 10 ounces or whatever ends up being is insignificant to the batch, but that doesn't mean it's insignificant to the experience, Carlos. Like
only homebrewers get to taste the wort before it becomes beer. It's one of the perks of being a home brewer, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it really does. Yeah, it is. I like it. It's a habit. Maybe it's not a functional habit why me and my dad do it just to like cap off. That almost caps off our brew day is that sampling the hydrometer, writing down the reading, tasting it, going, that's going to probably be good. And then whatever stupid things happen and I brew a Kolschweizen. But that Kolsch and that wort was good. And then whenever happened, made
it's funny you brought up Kolsch because I was going to say, I thought you capped off your brew day by having 6 Kolsches.
That is true too. That is actually how I cap off a brew day. The good thing is about that is you don't get sloshed. I can have 6 Kolsches at the end of a brew day.
Especially if you drink them out of those little 7-ounce Kolsch glasses, right?
That is true. And I've somebody was giving us flack on our Instagram. I won't name names because I'm not trying to embarrass them, but it was on our Facebook. Sorry, facebook.com/homebrew happy hour. And I had a stout, I had an IPA, and I was drinking them all out of a Kolsch stange and Kolsch glass. And he was like, you know, they make glassware for stouts, right? You know, they make glassware for IPAs, right? I was like, I like drinking in these 8-ounce increments, man. And it still tastes good to me. We still have a slither of breakfast stout left that in 8-ounce increments, it makes it seem like the never-ending keg.
How can you possibly have some of that left? I mean,
it was me and my dad, and that's it.
Well, I drank that like months and months and months ago.
Yeah, I know you did. Well, my dad, I think he took it to heart when I told him, stop taking our beer to poker, man. And I think he stopped taking our beer to poker. So it's nice because then I go over there and I have a few pours and it seems like it's always there. And it tastes great still. That's what I appreciate. But anyways, Carlos, you definitely don't, if you don't want to drink it, you can pour it back if everything's sanitized, but try drinking it in your next batch. Let us know how that goes. And don't ever pour it back if you did sample from the test tube. That's like worst case scenario.
It'd be fun.
So this is a great time before we move on to question number 2 to remind you if and when we take your question on a future episode, we do give you a $25 gift certificate to kegconnection.com, courtesy of Mr. Todd Burns. Thank you, sir. Moving on to question number 2 was a text message using our 325-305-6107 hotline. It was from William, and he wrote, "What's up, guys? I have a basic question that I'm sure you haven't had before. What's the difference between the 2 types of airlocks, and why would you use one over the other?" I use what I have because it's what I got from Todd. I have never looked into airlocks. I have a 3-piece. That also happens to be what we used in the part 2 video for the secondary fermenter, Todd. 3-piece seems to be what y'all use frequently. The other, that's what?
Oh, that's all I ever use. I mean, there's a 3-piece, and then there's the what do you call it? The S.
Yep.
S airlock, and that I think that's primary for secondary or wine. I'm sure people have used it in the primary, but man, I mean, if you start getting some fermentation that, and your krausen starts to rise up and go into the a little bit into it, it's going to clog up fast. I don't ever use them for primary beer.
And they're hard to clean too. So, I've
they're mainly for wine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's our secondary ferment, the secondary ferment.
I was just say, I
just never have used them.
Oh, I looked it up. Like I did a quick Google search because I was like, I don't know if all my brewing stuff's at my pop's. I'm sure we have an S-lock in there somewhere, but I looked it up real quick, and the first thing was like a homebrew talk forum thread that said something along the lines of like, I only use the S-lock for secondary because if they get clawed, it's a son of a gun to get resolved quickly. Where like you said, James, they're harder to clean. A 3-piece,
Yeah.
they're so straightforward. There's nothing going on with them, and especially for cleaning, it couldn't be easier. Just put them in, and that's it.
Yep. They're economical too.
You know what? If you're a listener and you use the S type, email us and tell us why. Tell us specifically why you would use it and what an advantage might be, because I have no idea. We promise not to mock you.
It depends what you write, but no.
It was a hollow promise. But yeah,
I was gonna say, because if you make a blanket promise like that, I'm gonna submit my ideas, and then you can't mock me. Like you agreed, you said if I emailed you, you wouldn't mock me.
I think everybody knew I was lying when I said that.
Yeah. So the difference is, James, do you know? Is there functionally?
Honestly, I always thought that it was just cheaper to make and produce, and that it was just a cheaper type of airlock than the 3-piece. The cool thing about a 3-piece that I like, and Todd and I have done this quite a bit, is you can take the inside part out and the lid off, and then you can put some hose on that tube if you think that you're going to have a pretty vigorous fermentation and there might be a chance of krausen getting into there, then you can put a tube in a blow off bucket. We've done that several times. They're very versatile, easy to clean, and they're not a whole lot of money. In fact, the difference between the two, I don't know why anybody would use an S.
Okay, yeah, and I was going to say, functionally speaking, they're both just indicators to let you know activity is going on. Like that is
that, and they also, they prevent air from entering.
Right, but I mean, like that is ultimately the function of the airlock, is preventing that backflow, preventing air from getting in rather, and showing you when there's activity. But that's all. Like there's not a whole lot to them, because there doesn't need to be. You can like James said, I don't know the last time, actually, now that I think about that, my dad and I used an airlock in that way. We usually just go straight to a blow off. We put the tube in the bung, and it goes into a bucket of sanitizer. That way, if there is any backflow, it's just residual sanitizer going into the beer. And that seems to be, even though blow-offs we haven't had a whole lot of blow-offs in our fermenters. It's just better to be safe than sorry, because it's so easy to set up a blow-off.
Super easy. Yeah.
It's very straightforward.
And the sanitizer is real important if you've got a conical and then you cold crash, because when you cold crash, that everything shrinks and it creates suction, and it can actually pull the liquid into the tube into the fermenter.
Reminds me of that Seinfeld episode. It was cold outside in the pool. It shrinkage. There is suckback from cold crashing, like what James is saying, where there can be. If you go on any home brewing related forum on the internet, you always can find a question any given day of, how do y'all prevent suckback? And sometimes it's just a prayer, man. I don't know.
You definitely don't want to Google that either, by the way.
Hey, I was going to mention, when I said the word bung, I always chuckle because Todd, in that video that we just published today, you made it a point to say bung like 30 times. And you, every time you said bung, you had a smirk. And if people find the Easter egg I put on one of the times you said bung, I'll shout you out on the next episode, because I put something in there when, like, one of the times you said bung. So anyways, it's kind of a Beavis and Butthead reference is what I put in there, but you look for it and I'll give you a shout out. And if it's a shout out of like 50 people, that's great. But no, William, why would you use one over the other? I think 3-piece, just because it's safer and easier. And I don't think the prices and difference is enough to justify the $1.20 you're going to save on an S-lock. And I just made that number up. I don't think the difference is very much, though, in cost.
Yeah, I know that if you ever get trub in an S-lock, it's very, very extremely hard to clean it. Safe enough to where you trust putting it on a new batch of beer.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and I need to watch that video again. Todd, I think you might have used an S-lock in the secondary. No, you didn't. You used a 3-piece. He's a 3-piece in the secondary.
I don't even own one, so yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know. Well, I mean,
I think we may have beat this question to death.
I don't want to argue. No. Oh, shut up. All right. Thanks. Hey, William. Thanks for playing. Appreciate it. I'm going to get you a gift card. This show's going great. Now, moving on. Thank you so much for submitting your question. Moving on to question number 3 came from our buddy Bradley, who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Bradley wrote, "Great podcast, guys." Is it really, though? According to Todd. I just joined the Super Club. Like Todd, it isn't my favorite name, and I think that he should name it since your show is brought to you by the checkbook of Mr. Todd Burns, as your ad says. Okay, now to my question. I forgot to measure gravity during a brew day and didn't realize it until a day after. Can I use my hydrometer or some other tool to measure the alcohol content now or even after the fermentation is complete? Bradley, first off, it's Super Duper Club. It's not Super Club. What is it?
Super Duper Homebrew Club, right?
Yeah, it's a Super Duper Homebrew Club. This isn't some child's play thing, Bradley. Yeah, Todd, I've always told Todd he can rename it. Rename it. You've not come up with a name.
So Bradley, thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. I'm going to answer your question really quickly, and then I'm going to get on to the more important stuff. I don't think I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, if you missed it, you missed it. It's gone. I used to never measure gravity. It's just, brew your beer and enjoy it. And I wouldn't worry about it too much. But James, you may disagree. Maybe there is a way to do it, and I don't know.
It depends on how far the fermentation has come along, and there's going to be some sugars. I think if you don't get a reading from initially, then I wouldn't worry about it.
We've all missed it. We've all forgotten to write it down. We've all taken it, written it down, and then lost a piece of paper. It's not a big deal. But what is a big deal is his name, and I can't agree with you more. Listen, I've been dying for somebody to ask this question.
Have you?
So we have a contest now. I told you about the contest.
Oh, is this the segue?
I know where you're going at.
So
I love it.
You can choose any recipe on our site, which is a value of up to $79.95. And all you have to do is send in the new name for the Super Duper Homebrew, whatever the hell that name is. We're going to rename it. We're going to start the process on this show. I want everybody listening to this show. We'll post it on our social media stuff. We're going to rename this club. And I want you to email tburns at kegconnection. No, wait, tburns@homebrewhappyhour.com, right?
Yeah, well, the forwarding's still not working. I would say tburns at kegconnection.
Tburns at kegconnection.com with your new name. And I will pick a winner, and we will rename this club. We're doing it.
Do I have any say in the new name?
Not at all. He just explained it on the question. Did you not hear the question?
So, I don't like this contest at all. Yeah, how all the time and effort I made into promo material. No, I actually haven't. We don't have promo materials yet. So this is a great time to rename it. But I was gonna say we should do it where people vote, but no, because then I would troll that contest. And get an even dumber name to win. That was the whole story behind Super Duper Homebrew Club. Was Todd was like, well, what are we gonna call it? And I said, I don't know, think of a name. He goes, well, this is your job. I was like, fine, it's the Super Duper Homebrew Club. And you go, fine.
Last time I make that mistake.
Oh man. Hey, let's get back to Bradley's.
Yeah. I shouldn't have gone to that seminar about empowering people.
You really shouldn't have. Ain't that the truth? Bradley, if you look, you can always get your measurement for final gravity, but without your starting gravity, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, you won't be able to know your ABV. That is physically impossible.
What I would say is if you brew a lot, especially if you brew that batch a lot, you're going to know your efficiency within a percentage of, let's say 10%. You can guess within 10%. What I would do is I would just go with what the kit gravity is, and that'll give you kind of an idea where your alcohol content is. Of course, if it smells sweet and you can have 10 beers without filling anything, well, it didn't ferment out completely. But
or if it's really, really dry and you start slurring your words up to the third one,
then it did really good.
It did really well. Yeah,
it was really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so wrapping it up. Forgetting to measure happens to everybody. And like Todd said, there's a lot of brewers in the 90s. If they could time travel, they go, why are you measuring? Like they just
that
didn't.
wasn't a thing.
They just didn't care enough to. I mean, like it was like. What does Charlie say? Relax, don't worry, have a homebrew, or don't worry, relax, have a homebrew. Or
Oh yeah, the first time we brewed, we didn't even have a hydrometer. I mean, we just poured the stuff in and threw the yeast in there, and whatever we got was what we were going to get. So it didn't matter what the numbers were anyway.
yeah, and you just make stuff up. It's what I do for my job 90% of the time, Bradley. You just write stuff down and
Yeah, like the Super Duper Homebrew Club. You made that up, right?
well, technically, I did. It was one of my quickest ideas too, because like I
Yeah.
said, I wanted you to have more skin in the game, and you were like, "You name it, that's your thing," and I named it, but apparently it is.
So we're going to rename it, guys.
That's good. That'll be good for
Any recipe you want. I will never enjoy giving a recipe away more than I'm going to enjoy giving this one away.
And that's with imperial yeast, right?
Yep, that is.
shoot
I'm going to
ya.
throw that
Yeah,
imperial
yeah.
yeast in there too. Whatever you want.
Absolutely. Which
So that makes it worth even more.
oh yeah, add at least $10 to it, or yeah, imperial yeast is it's worth
Yeah.
every penny too. By the way, people listening, and I'll wrap up. Bradley, thank you so much for the question. This month, Imperial started back up their sponsorship of us, and we thank them so much for their support of the show and everything that they do. I happen to realize I'm noticing, or I just noticed I'm wearing my Imperial shirt too. I'm a total walking infomercial for Casey and Owen, but I'm excited too, guys, about next month's sponsor. Right behind Todd's head, you see that awesome Homebrew Happy Hour sign. TinTackers.com is supporting our show, sponsoring us they're our title sponsor for the entire month of May coming up. So I'm super pumped. We have some cool things brow tag related coming from Tin Tackers, and we're always working with them on getting new fun merch made. And Todd's barn and Todd's office, don't touch your camera and turn it around, but Todd has the most
I would.
Okay, go ahead, Todd. Turn it around.
Look at that wall.
Todd's office and Todd's barn are covered in Tin Tackers. I think, are they a public company? Do you have stock in them? Like,
I do not. That's a great idea, though.
that is tell them to launch an EPO, and we'll, because you
Hey,
have
he still has more on that other desk by the wall
that he hasn't hung up yet. I know.
that he hasn't even hung up.
I know. You have the most Tin Tackers
I'm
I've
trying
ever
to
seen.
decide what I want to do in my bar. I can't. Like, I'm thinking about maybe putting in a shelf for more glassware, and I don't want to put all the stuff up and then take it all down. I'm trying to make a decision. I haven't made a decision yet.
Yeah, you and decisions, man. Which the renaming contest, is there a deadline? What is your deadline? What is the cutoff? When are we gonna officially rename it?
When I pick a new name.
Oh God. Okay. So episode 300, we'll have it by episode 300.
Hey, it's good. Somebody's going to mention a name. No, I don't know. Let's give it. What do we give it? 2 weeks or 30 days? 2 weeks.
I was going to say 2 weeks.
2 weeks is a great
2
idea.
weeks. So
2 weeks is a great idea.
So right now, today is the 29th, and the next week will be the 6th.
So the 13th.
So we're going to do it on the lucky old Thursday the 13th.
Thursday the 13th. I love that movie series. Yeah, we will do it on Lucky Thursday the 13th. Get your entries in, and Todd's going to give you whatever recipe you want with imperial yeast. So I only want to see the best ideas. I'm going to flood your inbox with my new ideas now. So anyways, Bradley, thank you so much for submitting your question. We have one final question for this week's show. It came from our buddy Brian S., who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Brian wrote, "Cheers from just south of y'all. Your YouTube video about the cooler brew is what convinced me to start all grain brewing. I'm waiting for it to arrive, so in the meantime, I need some help understanding what sparging is and which type of sparging you recommend for the cooler brew. It's a little confusing with fly sparging and batch sparging, and even some people saying that sparging isn't required. What are your thoughts, and do you switch up how you sparge every batch, or do you consistently sparge the same way every time?" I'll start this and say, I hope no one told you no sparging is appropriate for the cooler brew specifically, because we batch sparge, or pardon me, we fly sparge. I'm going to make it more confusing for them. We fly sparge on the cooler brew. And that's what it was in the video, and that's what me and my dad do, and that's how cooler brew. It's easy to fly sparge with that kind of gravity fed thing the way we do it, and so that's why we do it that way. But in regards to the differences and why one might be more appropriate for another, I'm going to start with you, James. And
thank you.
Yeah, I saw the look on your face.
It still confuses me to this day.
James, let's talk
all
sparging.
The different types.
Yeah. I've never done much batch sparging. I know Joe, he does a lot. And when we did the cooler brew, when we were testing it and getting it out, if you remember, he did a batch and he batch sparged. But the first system I ever built all grain, was strictly fly sparging, which is you can think of as a continuous sparge. Whereas with batch sparging, you're using the same wort, so to speak.
Yeah, you should throw vorloffing in there just to further confuse people.
Yeah, and vorloffing is just what you're doing is you're running the wort out of the mash tun till it creates a filter bed. So you're running it until you get no particulates in the wort, and then I would with that big system. It was basically, a 40-gallon cooler, and then I had a HLT up high with a burner, and then I had a boil pot down low, and it just gravity flowed from the HLT to the mash, and the mash to the boil kettle. And so we would do a fly sparge. So once we'd our initial strike water, we would fill the HLT back up, heat that water up, and then when we got ready to do a sparge, I would start running out of the mash tun into the boil pot. But first I had to make sure it would run clear. Once I got it to run clear, I had a two-way valve. I'd shut that off, have it trickling into the boil pot, and then I would add the flow of the HLT to match what was coming out of the cooler so the level stayed the same. That's how I've always done it. But Joe, that one time I saw somebody actually doing a batch sparge, I want to say, and I don't batch sparge, but he was using the same wort over the grain bed several times. He would collect it and just kept doing that. And I just never have done it that way.
And I wonder, I guess, I'll maybe, we haven't had Joe on in a while, and I would ask him, because I don't know anyone personally who chooses to batch sparge, and I assume batch sparging is a response to their setup as opposed to a choice. And I'm only saying that just because fly sparging is so easy. Mm-hmm. Fly sparging, especially I'm speaking specifically, Brian, about the cooler brew that you were using. Fly sparging with it is phenomenally easy. So I don't know if batch sparging is just a circumstantial thing or a preferential thing. So I can't answer that last part. Todd, on the Browtag 3 vessel that you use, you're fly sparging, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should start calling it. We should rename it rinsing, maybe.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, well, from now on, we're just going to call it rinsing. But, you've seen my videos, Josh. I actually use vorloffing, sparging, and mashing interchangeably when I'm describing things.
That's my favorite feedback comment when people yeah, you're right. And one video you did, you commented about strike water, but you called it sparge water.
Oh no, no.
And people love. James knows the online trolls. People like finding a mistake in a video.
Now that we're finished sparging, we're gonna mash this. And then when we're done with that, we're going to vorloff.
And immediately there's going to be a thumbs down on the video, and then someone going, how much can you actually know about brewing? Because you said mash.
Somebody's going to troll me on the batch sparging because I just don't. I don't.
You
do
just
it.
don't do it.
Never have done it that way.
Sparging is rinsing. It just means rinsing. One of the things we like to do in brewing is make up really complicated terms for real simple things that we do.
That's so people think we're smart.
Yeah, exactly.
So people think we're important and we're smart. It's why I post on Facebook, because I know I'm funny, obviously. I'm narcissistic. That's why social media exists. But I would say to Brian, one of the primary reasons we made that cooler brew video was as an instructional for people using the cooler brew. If you follow obviously your recipe may call for different temperatures. It may call for some different steps, but the steps Todd and James did in that, which I think that video is over 80,000 views now. It's a lot. If you follow that as a how-to, you're going to have a good brew day. I promise you.
Yeah. That was one of the best homebrew beers I think I've ever had.
That ESB
we did in that video.
It was a good beer. 80,000 views. Are you serious?
Yeah, it might be 89. I was going over.
There's a lot of people with nothing better to do. Huh?
Well, hey, one video, like if I had a nickel for every time someone asked me to update the electric all-in-one video, I'd have a crap ton of nickels.
Well, we should update the electric all-in-one video
because it just hit like 123,000 views, I think. And that's just James talking to a camera. Like I'm telling you, James.
Like, hey, can you do a video? You remember that day?
I did. I put you on the spot because there was a point when I'd asked you always do. If I ask you to do something, you're always game for it. But at that point, I was like, hey, you don't have to do this, but like right now, before I leave, I'd like to film this. You're like, okay, sure. And we went in that room, and you didn't have a script or anything. I was like, I could write you an outline. Here's what we're gonna do. I got it. All right, we're gonna go over the mash and boil. We're gonna go over this. Oh, hold on, let me get the lid I made for the mash and boil that has a pump on it, and then film. It was a one take too. I was like
15 minutes later, I was back in my office checking emails.
You were. That's right. Like, thanks for inconveniencing me, Josh. No, but we gotta do that video. But yes, Brian, back to your question on sparging. They go over it. They go over Vorloff. James describes what it is in that Cold Brew video, so you can watch it infinite number of times to help you understand. Because part of brewing is just learning the process, or
not to cut you off, but we've always mentioned the fact that whatever works for you is the right way to do it. And in all honesty, batch sparging, from what I remember, is you drain all the wort that you've created in your mash tun into a boil pot. At the same time, you've got a little rinse water heating on the stove, and then you just try to get a little bit more sugar out of that batch sparge. It's a little less efficient than a continuous sparge where you've got wort going out into a boil pot and you've got hot water coming in, because that liquid is always moving one direction, and that's the boil kettle. But you may not have the resources for that kind of setup. So the Grainfather is a good example of I guess you could say that would be a batch sparge, because what you're doing is you've already got the wort collected when you raise the basket up, or any all-in-one. And then at the same time, we would take a couple gallons on the stove and heat it up and pour it over the grains to get every little bit of sugar you can with the resources you have. So that's the biggest difference, if that makes more sense.
And you're right. And also in some of those electric all-in-ones, they're double milling and doing the no sparge,
right?
And because they're just letting it drain. And then I don't even want to spark this whole debate. We're gonna have someone who squeezes the bag on a future episode, I'm sure.
Just about to mention that.
Some people even squeeze the bag, and that's a whole. There are so many rabbit trail hole run things that they go down, and it could be a never ending episode, but.
Yeah, if you've had success with the way you brew beer, that's the right way for you.
Exactly. And can't stress that enough. Whatever equipment you're using, dialing it in is one of the most important things you can do, because then you are on your way to brewing consistently. And that's more valuable than anything in my book for home brewing, is consistent good beer. Hey,
go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Well, I do. Even when I extract brew, a lot of times I'll pour a little hot water in when I'm done. And I even squeeze the bag when James isn't looking.
Just get my hand on it. I do. People have reached out. I don't even know what you would call. If you're a brew in a bag brewer, we should do a home brew. And that's what. Maybe I should get the brew bag guy. That's what I'll do. I'll reach out to brew bag and see.
Yeah, he's the guy that says he squeezes the crap out of his bags.
We'll get him. Yeah, we'll get him on the show, and maybe we'll get an anti-squeezer on, and we'll have a real hardcore debate on American issues to squeeze or not to squeeze. You're a squeezer. I'm an anti-squeezer. And yeah. Anyways, Brian, again, that video, most of the time when we do these videos, it is to help answer the questions we receive on the retail side from customers. Like, hey, like, how do you fix this bonnet thing? And James was like, well, hell, let's make a video about it because it's easy to do. And when you see it done, it's easier than hearing it on a podcast necessarily, or even reading an email. So that Cooler Brew video goes through the whole process of how to brew on the system. And, they happen to do an ESB, but any recipe you do, it's going to be a similar process. So,
yeah, I think next year at Homebrew Con, when we actually have when we're live at the location again for what is it, club night? I'm going to get a shirt made that says "Bag Squeezer" with an arrow pointing that way. I'm going to walk with James to my right the whole night. How about that?
I'm with Bad Squeezer
or hates IPAs.
Yeah, that would actually be funny. No,
I would be running out of the convention hall.
I think we need to spend some of this money, this homebrew club money, like the $12 we've made last month, on y'all had a costume idea, Todd did, where he would go as a pin lock keg and you would go as a ball lock keg. And that's the best idea I've ever heard in my life because it is the most appropriate costumes we could have too. I mean, you're a little tall to compared to him, but it would be hilarious. Gotta be hilarious. But
I could be the tall pin lock disconnect and Todd can be the short pin lock disconnect.
Oh yeah. Oh, you could be no, I want you to be the ball lock keg and he's gonna be the pin lock keg, the short and round and the tall and skinny. I mean, not that that's describing y'all's body types or anything, Todd. I mean, you look like you're losing weight a little.
It's just because
the camera, the wide angle.
It's the camera. Yeah.
Button your top button. What are you doing, Rico Suave? God, you that little fat guy. No, we're on air. We're on. You have a sunburn too. Look, farmer tan. Anyway, audio people, I'm sorry for wasting your time. So that actually does it for this week, guys. That was all our questions. I appreciate y'all's time, and I'm finally coming up, barring some natural disaster or something, which I shouldn't joke about because we had a tornado warning last night in San Marcos. Your girl showed you the hail, right, Todd?
Yes. It was huge.
Nuts, James. It was baseball size hail.
Holy.
Yeah, it was crazy. But
moly.
Barring something awful, because it's been damn near a month since I've been up there. We're coming up. We're doing Browtad stuff. We'll post a lot to our Instagram story. So Instagram.com/Homebrew Happy Hour. I can't wait to see you guys. I appreciate y'all's time. I'll talk to y'all soon.
See ya.
Thank you.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. Thank you to our show sponsor, Imperial Yeast, for supporting us and the homebrewing community. Get a free pack of Imperial Yeast with your monthly recipe kits when you join the Super Duper Homebrew Club by going to homebrewhappyhour.com/club. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.